Hey everyone! Before we begin, please subscribe. Today, I'm sharing a true story from my real life, something I've never talked about before. Stay till the end because the ending changed everything for me. You might think an old woman like me should be used to silence, and people assume we like quiet, like we are made for stillness and slow days. But let me tell you something. Silence is not always peaceful. Sometimes it is the loudest thing in the world. And I live in a house that used to know my name, a house where my children once called me Mum and Mummy from every corner, where laughter and footsteps filled the rooms, and even the mess felt like life. But I didn't know what tired truly meant until the day I buried my children. Because grief does not enter politely. It kicks the door down, steals the air from your lungs, and sits on your chest at night until you wake up thinking you are dying too. And maybe you are. Maybe you die in pieces and keep walking around like a shadow. And when I lost my son first, and then my daughter, people told me to be strong, as if strength is a choice, as if I could decide not to break. But I broke. And yet I stayed alive, because my grandchildren were standing beside me with frightened eyes, and I promised myself I would raise them and love them enough for all of us. But my mistake was believing love would return the same way I gave it, because now I wake up before the sun, my bones aching, my hands rough from soap and scrubbing, and I sweep and mop and wash dishes left behind like a message that I exist only to clean. And I make breakfast, hoping kindness might melt the cold in their hearts. But when Emily walks in, she doesn't say good morning. She opens the fridge and complains there is nothing to eat. And when I offer eggs and toast, she snaps that she doesn't want my old food. And Oliver walks past me with headphones on, taking tea without asking and spilling drops on the counter. And I wipe it, because that is what I am here for now, not to be loved or respected, but to serve. And still I whisper the same painful prayer each morning that they won't become strangers to me, because this house already feels like it has forgotten my name. Let me tell you something about being old, because people don't always insult you with words. Sometimes they insult you by treating you like you no longer deserve softness. And in this house, I am not asked, I am ordered. Gran, where's my jumper? Gran, wash my trainers. Gran, why's the tea gone cold? Gran, clean the bathroom. And they say Gran like a bell they ring for service. And the first time I truly realized I had become their maid was when I was on my knees scrubbing the kitchen floor after Emily spilled fizzy drink and walked away without looking back, my knees cracking, my back screaming, and Oliver stepped right through the wet patch. And when I warned him, he didn't apologize. He only told me to mop properly, as if I haven't lived a lifetime of caring for others. And sometimes I want to ask them if they remember their mom, how she kissed their foreheads and worked hard and still came home smiling. But whenever I mention their parents, their faces sharpen, and Emily snaps that I make everything depressing, as if my grief is a dirty thing to hide. And one evening, I made dinner and tried to set it nicely, like love could be served beside the food. But Emily tasted it and called it disgusting. And when I offered to fix it, she complained I never cook right. And Oliver laughed and said I cook like it's the war. And their words embarrassed me so deeply that I quietly took my plate away and ate later standing near the sink like a servant who isn't allowed to sit with the family. And the worst part isn't being treated like a maid, but being treated like I deserve it. Because at night, I stare the ceiling asking if my children were alive, would they allow this? And I know they never would. But they are gone, so I get up again the next morning and I clean. People think rude children are simply bad children, But I have learned something painful, that sometimes their rudeness is grief wearing a different face. Because my grandchildren are angry at fate and angry at God and angry at the road that took their parents away, but they cannot shout at death, so they shout at me because I am alive and close and easy. And Emily throws her bag on the sofa and says she hates this house, meaning she hates the sadness trapped in these walls, but she speaks as if I am the reason for her pain. And Oliver's anger is colder, quieter, and he ignores me so well it feels like I'm already dead. And one day I slipped on the wet floor after mopping, and my hip hit the ground and pain shot through my leg like fire, and I cried out softly. But Emily sighed like I was an inconvenience and told me not to be so dramatic, and Oliver stepped over my bucket and told me to move because he was late. And I got up alone, holding the counter, smiling even while shaking, because if I show pain, they accuse me of acting. And that night I sat with my daughter's cardigan pressed to my face and whispered if I failed her, wondering why my grandchildren became so hard, whether I loved them wrong or whether life simply broke them in a way I cannot fix. And the truth is, I don't know. I only know their anger burns me every day, and I stand in it like a candle that refuses to go out. I stopped expecting gifts long ago, because at my age you don't need flowers or cake, you just want to be remembered. But that day hurt more than I expected, because it was my birthday and I didn't tell them or remind them. I wanted to see if they would remember on their own. I wanted to believe there was still something soft inside them. So I woke up early and made tea and sat by the window watching morning light touch the garden, waiting. But Emily walked in and demanded her skirt, and Oliver complained his charger was missing, and there was no happy birthday and not even a glance. So I swallowed the lump in my throat and helped them as always, finding the skirt, searching for the charger, packing lunches, working on my birthday like it was any other day. And when the house was empty, I took out an old photo of my children and me, my son's arm around my shoulder, and my daughter laughing, and I traced their faces and whispered that I was 1 year older and still here. And then I cried silently, because old women learn how to cry without sound. And later, Emily brought friends home laughing and eating crisps, and for a moment the noise felt like life again until she shouted for me to make tea quickly. And I served them like a servant, and one girl looked at me with pity that felt like another insult, and when they left, Emily didn't thank me, she just slammed her door. And that night, I didn't even whisper happy birthday to myself, because what is a birthday when you feel like you don't exist? There are things I keep hidden in a small box under my bed, not because they are expensive, but because they are sacred. And inside is my daughter's locket, a simple silver chain with a tiny heart charm she wore every day. And after she died, it came to me, and I held it like I was holding the last piece of her. But one afternoon, Emily came into my room without knocking, searching through drawers because she wanted money. And when I reminded her she had pocket money, she snapped it wasn't enough, and her eyes landed on the box. And my heart stopped as she opened it and saw the locket and said it looked expensive. And when I told her it was her mom's, she paused for 1 second, and I hoped she would soften. But instead, she shrugged and said, "So? She's dead." And those words punched the air out of my chest, because she was not just dead, she was her mother, she was my child, she was the love of my life. And Emily grabbed the chain, and I held her wrist, trembling, begging her not to take it. But she called me pathetic and yanked her hand away so hard the chain snapped, and the charm fell onto the carpet like my heart breaking again. And she stormed out, leaving the broken locket behind, and I dropped to my knees, collecting the pieces, like I could put my daughter back together if I tried hard enough. And that night I repaired it as best as my unsteady fingers could, tying it like a prayer. And I realized something terrifying, that my grandchildren weren't just rude, they were becoming heartless. You can ignore an old woman's tears, but you cannot ignore her body forever, because it will speak whether she wants it to or not. And my body has been warning me for months, with dizziness and trembling hands and sharp back pain and swollen feet and a tight chest on the stairs. But I kept going because who else would do the work? And one morning, while making breakfast, the room spun and the spoon slipped and hot tea spilled and burned my skin. And I gasped, but Emily only groaned that now she'd be late, and Oliver told me not to mess up everything. And I stared at them, shocked by how easily cruelty came to their tongues, whispering that I wasn't well. But Emily rolled her eyes and said I was always not well. And that day I forced myself through the chores like walking through water, washing and sweeping and cooking, until my fever rose by evening and my body shivered. And I lay on my bed, staring at the door, hoping they might come and ask if I was all right. But no one came, and Emily shouted from the living room asking what was for dinner. And when I said I couldn't, she simply yelled that they would get takeaway. And they didn't bring me water or check my forehead or care if I lived or died. And that night I cried into my pillow, thinking if my children were alive, they would have held my hand. But they were gone, and the ones left behind treated me like I was already buried. Sometimes strangers notice what family ignores, and that day I was outside sweeping the front steps with aching knees and a stiff back when my neighbor, Mrs. Hughes, stopped and asked if I was all right, and her kindness startled me so much my eyes filled with tears before I could stop them, and I lied that I was fine, but she looked at my face and said no, I wasn't. And when she asked if my grandchildren helped me, I laughed bitterly because they don't even see me. And she held my arm gently and said I shouldn't be doing everything alone. And I wanted to tell her everything about being treated like a maid, about the insults and the coldness and the loneliness. But all I managed was that I had no one else. And she said softly that I had myself, and that sentence stayed with me, because later Emily came home and found the house quiet and asked why it was such a state, and I was too tired to pretend, too tired to beg, too tired to keep smiling, so I said I couldn't because my body hurt, and Emily crossed her arms and said they didn't ask to live with me, and those words stabbed deep, because I didn't ask to lose my children either, but I stayed quiet because I was afraid if I spoke the truth, I would finally break. One night I took out paper and a pen and wrote a letter to Emily and Oliver, not to accuse them or shame them, but to let my heart breathe. And I wrote that I knew they were hurting and that they missed their mom and dad, even if they didn't say it. But I begged them not to punish me for their absence because I loved my children more than my own life, and losing them nearly killed me. And I was still standing only because of my grandchildren. Yet they treated me like nothing, and I wrote that I was old and tired and needed kindness too. And I wrote that I was not their maid, I was their grandmother, the woman who held them when they were small, the one who prayed when they were ill, the one who stayed alive when I wanted to die so they wouldn't be alone. And my tears smudged the ink until the words looked like they were drowning. And I folded the letter and held it against my chest and thought about giving it to them. But I couldn't because I was afraid Emily would laugh, afraid Oliver would tear it, afraid they would use my pain as a joke. So I hid it in my drawer and realized how lonely it is when you cannot even share your feelings in your own home. There was a night I packed a small bag with a few clothes and my tablets, and my daughter's cardigan and my son's watch and the broken locket. And I stood in my room staring at the walls and furniture and memories, whispering maybe I should go, though I didn't even know where I would go, because staying felt like dying slowly. And I walked to the front door and touched the handle, but then I heard Emily laughing in her room and Oliver playing music loudly, and they sounded alive. and something in me froze, because even though they hurt me, they were still the last pieces of my children, and if I left, I would truly be alone. So I didn't go, and I unpacked the bag quietly and sat on my bed, staring at my hands, realizing I wasn't staying because I was weak, but because love is stubborn, and a grandmother's love is stubborn, even when it is unwanted, and that is both beautiful and tragic. Now, as I tell you my story, I want you to understand I am not telling you this for pity. I am telling you because there are many grandmothers like me, silent and ignored and overworked and broken inside homes that should have been safe. And I still wake up early and cook and clean and pray, but something has changed because I have stopped expecting love from those who don't know how to give it. And I have stopped begging for respect, and I speak to God more than I speak to them. And at night when the house sleeps, I sit by the window and whisper my final prayer, asking God to soften their hearts and heal their anger, and let them remember their parents with love instead of bitterness. And when my time comes, to let me go peacefully, because I am tired of crying quietly. And sometimes I imagine a day when Emily will look at me and finally see me, not as a maid or a burden, but as a grandmother who loved her enough to survive the death of her own children. And maybe one day Oliver will sit beside me and ask me to tell him about his dad. And maybe one day they will regret every rude word and cold look and every moment they treated me like nothing. But until that day comes, I keep living, not because life is kind, but because love is. And even if my love is never returned, I will carry it until my last breath, because that is what grandmothers do. We endure, we forgive, and we cry silently so the world doesn't hear how broken we truly are. Thank you for listening to my story and for learning the lesson it carries. If this story touched you and you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel and stay connected for more true stories based on real-life experiences.